Hey, what's going on? No, I'm about to make the Motobilt fuel cell video. Yeah, I got the old one out already. No, well, there's no instructions online on how to install it, so I figured I'd make a YouTube video. No, so far it's so good. Alright, well, I'll talk to you later. Alright, see you, bye. Today we're going to check out the Motobilt fuel cell for the Jeep Wrangler YJ. If you didn't know already, my name is Dylan. I'm the owner and editor of BreakingBolts.com. Go check out my website. I cover everything rock crawling, overland, off-road, Jeeps, and even Toyotas. Besides building a cool roll cage, getting new seats, new harnesses, a fuel cell should be your next upgrade. A Jeep Wrangler is notorious for being a great off-roader, but they're also notorious for having some low-hanging fuel tanks at the back of the vehicle. Now that can cause a problem, especially if you plan on going 1 tons or stretching that rear axle back any more than it already is. Now for most of you, this won't be a problem at all, mainly because you're not planning on going 1 tons or moving your axle back any more than it is factory. But I'll tell you, a fuel cell can be a great safety addition, and you can increase your departure angle significantly. And sometimes looking cool is just as important. For starters, this fuel cell allows you to keep your back seat so you don't need to lose any passengers off-road. It comes with included tank straps, and you can keep your factory fuel pump. There's no guesswork involved. Now, this may all sound like one big sales pitch, but I promise you it isn't. Besides no instructions included on the box or the website, and the pretty slow shipping times, this is by far one of the best fuel cells I've ever had. Along with your package from Motobilt, you're going to get tank straps, fuel fill neck, fuel fill cap, hardware, fuel pump bracket, and a breather hose connection. When you're ready to install your Motobilt fuel cell, make sure to get 10 to 14 feet of 3/8 fuel hose, high pressure fuel hose clamps, 8 3/8 by 16 bolts, 3/8 lock washers, and 3/8 washers. Finally, don't forget to remove your fuel pump and your fuel sitting unit from your factory fuel tank before you chuck it in the trash. You're going to need some tools for this project. 7/16 nut driver, 7mm socket, 11mm open end or box end wrench, your favorite impact or drill, 17/64 drill bit, 3/8 drill bit, and the largest step bit you own. Now, this right here is the bracket for your factory fuel pump that goes on the fuel cell. But here's the big problem with it. These bolts are too big to go into the factory holes. You're going to use your 17/64 drill bit to ream these holes out, but if you're anything like me, you never have sharp drill bits around, so you can use a step bit instead. When using a step bit, just take it slow just so you don't make the holes too big. It doesn't take much to get these reamed out to the right size. Just use the bolts on the bracket as a guide. This is your fuel filling assembly. Here's your gasket, your fuel neck, the fuel cell, and the ring that goes within the fuel cell. The ring has a break in it to make it easier to slide into the cell. You can see here that I've already assembled everything just for time's sake. So let's go ahead and bolt this stuff down. You're going to need that 7/16 nut driver and your 11mm box end wrench. Next, before we move back to your Jeep for installation, we're going to install the fuel pump. You're going to use the provided bracket and slide it into place through the bottom. These brackets do have their own home on either side of the fuel pump. You'll find if trying to install the bracket on the wrong side of the tank that it won't fit. To ensure the bracket doesn't fall off, you could throw a nut on one of the bolts. Repeat this process for both sides, then you can snake your fuel pump and fuel sending unit into the tank. You can see here that this is the front of the fuel cell, so you'll want these inlets on the fuel pump facing the driver's side of the vehicle. All that's left now is to install the rest of the bolts provided and get them tightened down with the 7/16 nut driver. Alright, so on the back of the vehicle again, we're going to go ahead and get the holes marked for the base plate, the tank straps, and we're going to cut the hole in the floor to stick the fuel hoses up and the wiring harness up for your fuel pump. You're going to need either a Sharpie or a center punch, as well as your large step bit, your drill, your nuts, bolts, lock washers, and washers. The base plate can be used as a guide for marking the holes to be drilled. The location for the big hole to fit your fuel hoses and wiring harness through is kind of up to you. For my installation, I wanted the fuel hoses hidden, so I installed my rear seat to make sure the hoses would be routed underneath it. Again, for the life of me, I can't keep sharp drill bits around the shop, so I'm just going to use another step bit for this. Once you have all the holes drilled, you can reinstall the base plate. And finally, you can place the fuel cell in the back of the Jeep. The bent piece of the bracket will sit against the corner of the fuel cell. You can see there's a polygonal shape here. That'll face towards the front of the vehicle. Now install the bolts through the tank straps and the base plate. Some hammer persuasion in my case is required. Once all the bolts are in place, you can install the rest of the hardware. While it is possible to use the factory fuel hoses, in most cases they won't reach to the new fuel cell. At this time, install your high pressure fuel clamps and the hose to the fittings on the top of the fuel pump. Repeat this process for both the return and the supply. I did overlook one major part you should pick up before installing. A rubber grommet kit can be had on Amazon or from your local parts store for about $10. This is vital for the safety of the vehicle and the passengers who ride within it. Route the fuel pump harness through the hole you drilled here and connect the wires that come from the factory fuel pump. Once all the connections are fastened tightly on the top of the tank, you can go ahead and dive under the vehicle. You'll find sitting against the cross member and the frame factory hard lines that run up to the front of the vehicle. Connect and fasten tightly your new hoses and high pressure hose clamps. Well, that's it for this install. If you have any questions at all, you can leave them in the comments below. Make sure to check out my website breakingbolts.com for even more information on the Motobilt fuel cell for the Jeep Wrangler YJ.